Hello. Michael Joel Hall here, and I want to talk to you today about how we can make assessments in Ashtanga Yoga. There are some historical ways that this was done, and there are some, shall we say, more modern ways. Once upon a time ago, like when my first Ashtanga Yoga teacher, David Ingalls, got Patabi Joyce's blessing to teach, there was no authorization or certification process that we would recognize really now. Patabi just said he could teach, and so he did. And nowadays, like you're going to find that people get certification by going to India 10 years in a row, courting favor with the head of the Ashtanga Yoga Institute that was called the Shrat Yoga Center for a while before Shrat's passing. And there are also traveling teachers that people hold in a really high regard. And so they'll go and use them as assessment pieces. And I think the more modern way is rather interesting, but I think that it comes with some problems. Like when you are working with a teacher long enough that they really see you and understand you and trust that you can communicate the teachings of Ashtanga Yoga in your own voice, that's a pretty big deal. And they get to see that by seeing you over time and watching you grow. In the workshop or certification route, oftentimes it can be a little bit more academic and political, where honestly, like if you were going to Mysore, you didn't have to be a good teacher to get authorized to teach. You just had to, show that you could practice. And this gets like pretty tricky if you're like using authorization or certification as like your check mark for being allowed to teach. I think this might be a little bit controversial, but there are two models of teachers that I run into. And one of the models, I'm not going to lie, feels a little culty at times and frankly, rather ignorant, frankly. I want to be charitable about it because otherwise it's, really predatory, cult-like and dangerous. But, you know, but let's be charitable. Let's say that there are those that have an understanding of nonlinear dynamics, nonlinear system dynamics, perhaps, and those that work with the idea of a closed system such that there can be linear development. And I really think that's just linear judgment, honestly. When you went to Mysore and got authorized, you had to agree to teach like Shrat taught. And I ran into personal conflict at times because I taught with props, and I tried teaching without props and I could do it. And to be frank, I didn't think it was accessible enough. And so I returned to the old way, my way, like what I learned when I apprenticed in the Iyengar tradition, not teaching Iyengar yoga, but using that toolkit. And in doing so, I think it allowed me to respect where the student was and to communicate with them a little bit more clearly about the demands and necessities of a posture to make it beneficial to them. By developing relationship and by explaining the benefit and by understanding the motivations of the individual, it becomes easier or at least more manageable to create efficacious interventions. Those that tend to model linear judgment, if they don't have a control kink, then they are very likely those who came to the practice with some genetic privilege or financial privilege that allowed them to really cultivate a deep asana practice. So some people get judged by visible achievements, and that can be used as a metric for the quality of their pedagogy. And I happen to think that's garbage and ableist. But when we run into this, the truth is true. We have to talk about what is it that we're looking at. It's a long arc of practice. And I believe that those that understand nonlinear system dynamics are going to be able to practice longer because they can understand better the things that are beneficial to them for practice, what they get from it. They understand the value of it and how it layers because they're working with it. And I think maybe in a way that is powerful for them, but for those that are able to do everything immediately, that you don't always run into the necessity of deep learning of the patience and growth and the reality that, maybe your body can't do something and it never will. That is the reality for many people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the people who get empowered oftentimes are those who've had very little struggle there, especially if they're judged by visible achievements. I think it's far more holistic, honestly, to find, I don't know, a measuring criteria that is around something like consistency, presence, kindness, the yamas and niyamas coming along. But also, I do want to see back bends grow. It's true. And so, what do I do? How do I encourage physical development while also being very straightforward about the importance of the yamas and niyamas? What do you do? How do you push and pull? How do you do and not do? It's it's a tough question. And, I think some people who struggle with nonlinear system dynamics, those that need things to be linear, they're gonna probably get weird about it. And that weirdness can show up in control stuff, And I think that there are some important questions to ask. What do you want to develop out of your practice? Honestly, is it more range of motion? Great. Is it more strength? Fabulous. Is it presence? Do you need some humility? What qualities do you want in a teacher? What's more important to you? Is their presence more important or their humility? Is it their strength or their range of motion? Or is it their range of education? These aren't dangerous questions. Don't be afraid to turn around as a practitioner of yoga and ask what attracts you to the people from whom you receive mentorship or guidance, the ones that you're going to adopt their taste or subjective opinions on. Or at least you spend time with people, you're going to pick up their vibe, strength, range, humility. I don't know. I think focusing on development is a great idea, no matter what kind of practitioner you are. It's just important that you know what you are developing. And if you're working with a teacher with no moral compass, then fine, be around it, learn from them that you're awesome. But Ashtanga Yoga, in my opinion, is meant to be taught with an ethical framework. And your teacher and you should be in a state of development. And at some point, your teacher is going to die and you're going to be the teacher. And your commitment to personal growth is going to be essential, especially as I don't know, your body falls apart. I'm 42. We'll figure it out.